Will Smith slapped.
I was wondering. Okay, wait. How long have we been recording? I was wondering how long it was going to take us before someone.
We talked about Ukraine.
No, Will Smith.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether or not we'd make it. I had it planned.
Yeah.
I was literally in the back of my mind. 2 hours in. I had it planned that at the end, if we didn't talk about the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing, that I was going to say, it's amazing. This is the first conversation to happen in a long time where it wasn't mentioned. Oh no!
No, do not pull it up. No, we don't need.
Here
to
we
see
go.
It. We don't need to.
Here we go. It revealed some interesting things about human beings' impulse control and lack thereof. But you know, oh my goodness, Chris Rock has material for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I think he's not short on material. But I do see if I knew what I wanted to tweet, if I knew you're allowed to just slap comedians, my conversation with Tim Dillon would have gone very differently. People just being humans. There's so much fascinating human nature on display there. It's also in terms of it becoming a topic that a lot of people are talking about versus the war in Ukraine, for example, is also fascinating to watch. Like, just these kind of news cycles moving through.
Well, I think, if I may, sorry to interrupt, but anytime we observe something very limbic, very emotional, we generally can empathize somewhat, right? We all know what it's like to feel angry. We all know what it's like to feel ashamed. We all know what it's like to feel shocked. Images of war are, for most people, very hard to relate to. We see it. It's, there are these images and they're very traumatic and challenging to look at times. And yet most people have no idea what it feels like to be shot at, or what it feels like to have your home destroyed, or what it feels like to be an aggressor in that way. So I think that people naturally orient towards things that feel familiar to them, even though the circumstances are different.
And people also forget, they look at these celebrities, it's just like looking at criticism of Will Smith. You forget that they're human too. That's one of the most surprising things for me, having done this podcast and met celebrities and stuff like that. They're human. They're all human. And that's inspiring to me. Like, some of these great folks that have won Nobel Prizes and built some cool things, they're just human, like the rest of us.
Well, and if you look at actors and actresses, I mean, there's some amazing ones, right? And who also do well in their outside life, but their careers were built on the business of pretending to be other people.
Yeah.
And that's got to distort, maybe positively, but also just, let's be honest, what it is, that the neuroplasticity there, the changes in the areas of the brain that represent personality have to be quite different for somebody who pretends to be lots of different personalities and gets paid for it. You're working the reward system into the system of self-identity. And, you have to imagine that can really contort somebody's neurology in ways that maybe they are not in touch with reality in the same way that we are. Remember earlier we were talking about neurotic versus psychotic. They may be more borderline in their kind of ground state than we think. And so I'm actually impressed anytime there's a celebrity who doesn't have a messed up life.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, finally somebody who's managed to, maintain some semblance, at least from the outside, of normalcy.
So first of all, I can empathize with the actions that Will Smith did, right? They're not, I think they're kind of, they're just shitty. You should probably talk privately, man to man, not, because otherwise it's like a dramatic display. It's almost like you are a fake you're acting.
Well, there are all these questions, right? I mean, obviously it was aggressive at some level. There's this question of whether or not it was impulsive. I think most people feel yes. There's a question. There was the protective nature of it because he was doing it to, in defense. But then there's also the context. He lost touch with the context, right? Whereas Chris Rock basically gets there's the possible critique that he went too far. That's going to be in the eye of the beholder. But then, and depending on how you view comedy and jokes, but then there's also the fact that he took that slap and then just snapped right back, so much so that people thought maybe it was faked.
Yeah.
He also waited with his hands behind his back.
That's just natural. He likes to stand like that. I mean, I got to tell a little bit of a story here to connect to what Chris Rock did. Like, I wish what Chris Rock did in terms of just taking this slap and keep going. First of all, just props for somebody that's able to maintain cool in that situation for the most part. I think I'd like watched it once.
You only have to be alive on this planet.
Yeah, I know. It's hard
to see it. You can't avoid seeing it.
I wish at that afterwards, he would sort of say something loving and kind to Will Smith and his wife, and then hit him real hard. Lean into the joke.
See, but I think in hockey they call it taking a number. I have a friend who plays hockey, and there's this idea that like if someone checks you really badly in one game, you don't go and check them again. You don't get into a fight. But 3 games later, you blade them in the shin.
Yeah.
The ability to defer and to handle it in whatever fashion one feels is appropriate.
They're probably also friends and all those kinds of things, that they respect each other. So he probably didn't. But there's a comedian instinct. I saw this. I was at an open mic in here in Texas. I won't say where. There's many open mics in Austin.
We've gone to a few of these. These are pretty fun.
Yes. No, yeah. So there is more sort of rougher kind of.
Yeah, you've been hanging out in like West Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Austin's too tame for Lex, so he's like head to West Texas.
Exactly. I put on a cowboy hat and instantly I became a cowboy. I've been talking like a cowboy. I belong out there in the desert.
He's gone from eating, meat and athletic greens to rattlesnakes. Rattlesnake jerky.
Exactly.
Right.
No, there was a open mic. It was late at night, and I was one of the only people in the audience. There's a couple of drunk folks, a few drunk folks. One of them was a couple, and like bikers, like with helmets and so on. A guy and a girl, and then the comedian, the open mic comedian, did a joke about people who wear helmets. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but he did the joke. And then the guy about women who wear helmets, and the guy is this exact same situation. The guy stood up, walked up to him. There was no slap. It's so interesting because this happened before the Will Smith thing. So he walked up to the comedian and said he I think he like pointed his finger down and told him to stop or something like that, and then sat down. This is an audience of like 6 people, right? And at midnight around then. There's nobody, no security, nothing.
In Texas.
Which
implies...
then this guy was the energy, drunk, but also a biker. And what he felt, his lady was now attacked by the comedian, right, with his words. And the comedian was a kind of out of shape, small guy. So it's not threatening at all and probably in trouble. And the comedian, after he sat down, he looked a little bit scared. He paced back and forth. And then he did the joke again.
Wow.
And I was sitting and I leaned back and I just did this like, because that is comedy. And the guy was getting angrier and angrier, and he just sat there. And the comedian went on for a couple more minutes. And then did another bad joke, but another joke about how much, just like he leaned into it.
If you go to a small comedy club, open mic or otherwise, you're in the shooting gallery. Yeah. Like you're basically there, teed up as a pin to get it. We went and saw Andrew Scholes in San Francisco.
In San Francisco?
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was amazing. I mean, he's just masterful in his ability to command an audience. But I felt for the people up front, but no sympathy either, because you buy tickets to sit up front at a Scholes show, you're gonna get it. But he was very loving,
and funny. First of all,
he's
funny. The funniness really helps you, but the ethic of the comedian is like that fearlessness. What I really liked. It is like the danger. There's risk to comedy, and there's also consequences.
Have you watched that show? The Marvelous Miss Maisel show? Mm-hmm. It's really good. I watched a few of them. Guilty pleasure there. She plays a comic in I think it's the mid 1960s in New York, and there's a character that somewhat resembles Lenny Bruce. Mm-hmm. It's sort of meant to be Lenny Bruce, and they're always getting arrested and this kind of thing. I think I learned about it from Joe. Anyway, the writing's great. It's very funny. But yeah, comedy is designed to push boundaries, right? And to say the thing that, other people feel they can't say. Not something in science, right? Science, etiquette is a big part of how you communicate ideas. It's about constraining communication. This is something I confess on the podcast, in the goals of making it clear, interesting, surprising, and actionable. You have to constrain the amount and the style of information. Otherwise, it becomes something else altogether.